don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that anytime we upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thank you.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Come to give praise and honor to the God of the universe who has created all things. And we thank him for allowing us to be here today, to be able to worship before him. And we thank him for all that he does for us and praying that his presence would be among us at this time and that he would allow us to be taught by him through the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that he will give to us. At this time, you may be seated. So once again, we've come together to give praise and honor to the creator of the heavens and the earth. That we acknowledge him for all things that he does for us. For he is the one that gives us food, shelter, and clothing. The one that gives us knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. The one that allows us to come forth and give praise and honor to him, to acknowledge that he is the creator of the heavens and the earth. So we ask once again that his presence would be here with us this day, and that he would continue to teach us in all the places where the children of Yisrael gather and worship before him on this day. We ask that Yehovah, who is the creator of the heavens and the earth, would impart wisdom and understanding unto all of us. So we thank him once again for all that he does for us, allowing us to survive throughout the week and to acknowledge that we are the children of Yisrael. For Yehovah God is the creator of the heavens and the earth, and it's to him alone that we give praise and honor to. We do not attach his name with any other name. We do not praise him along with anyone else, because he lives by himself. He was there in the beginning of the heavens and the earth, because he created the heavens and the earth in the beginning. But he has no beginning and he has no end. So we thank him for who he is. We don't know what he is. We just know that he is the creator. We know that he is God. And we know certain attributes. We know that he is merciful. We know that he is compassionate. We know that he is kind. We know that he is just. We know that he is righteous. We know that he is supreme. We know that he is wonderful. We know that he is honest. We know that he is brilliant. We know that he is awesome. We know that he is awful. And he gives to everyone according to the works of their hands, which is what we will read today as well. So if we're good, he will give us good. If we're evil, then he will give us evil. For he does not have a partner in crime. He does not have a partner to help him do good. He doesn't have a partner to help him do evil. He doesn't need any help. He saw that man was alone and that man needed help. But it never said that Jehovah God needed help. So he's the one that does all things by himself, as he created the heavens and the earth by himself, and he spoke, and everything came into existence. So therefore, he's not a partnership. God is not an S corporation. He's not any type of, he doesn't need corporate sponsorship. He does everything by himself. He doesn't need a team to play with. He's on the battlefield by himself. And he fights all his battles by himself. We need help. We need weapons sometimes to help us in our battles. Jehovah God doesn't need any weaponry. He does everything, speaks it, and it happens. He wants us to live, he says we're alive. He wants us to die, he says so, and we die. So once again, we thank Jehovah God for all that he does. And once again, we acknowledge the God that in the beginning of the book that we read, the Holy Scriptures, the God that created the heavens and the earth. He is the one that we acknowledge. And once again, we don't attach him to anyone else because he does not want to be attached with anyone else. And it's that attachment that we try to put with him that causes problems for us. Also, he has made us, the children of Israel, a special people. But there are things that we have to do in order to maintain that special status. He said that we would be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation if we listen to him. So it's not an automatic process. So we can't think just because we are Yisrael, we are born of the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that everything is going to happen automatically, positively for us. There are things that we have to do in order to receive that positivity from the Most High God. And when we do things negative to ourselves, then he will bring the negativity upon us. So we ask the Most High God that he would teach us on this day, once again, to continue to teach us day by day. For our worship and praise to Jehovah God is not just on the Sabbath day, but it's every day that we are alive. So we have to make sure that in order to receive favor from him, that we are following the statutes, commandments, and judgments that he has spoken to our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So we follow their path. And also the words that Jehovah God spoke to Moshe, spoke to Moses the servant of God, to teach the children of Yisrael. And this word is also for all the earth to follow. The children of Yisrael, we are supposed to be the head of all nations, so that we would join people in service to God. But when we followed after other nations, that's when the problem came in. So at this time, we're going to go into the book of Jeremiah. We're going to begin in chapter 16. And once again, it's us following the ways of other nations that has caused the problems that we have today. Continue.
We're in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 16, starting at verse 1. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
The word of Yahweh came also unto me, saying, Thou shalt not take thee a wife, neither shalt thou have sons or daughters in this place.
So once again, this is Jehovah God speaking to the prophet Jeremiah and warning him about what's going to happen to the children of Israel in the land. Remember, this is the land that Jehovah God has given to the children of Israel as a possession. So he's telling the prophet Jeremiah to not take a wife or have sons or daughters in this place. Once again, Jeremiah is dwelling in the land of Israel, primarily in the territory or the kingdom of Judah, the southern kingdom of the nation of Israel. Continue.
For thus saith Yahweh concerning the sons, and concerning the daughters that are born in this place, and concerning their mothers that bore them, and concerning their fathers that begot them in this land. They shall die of grievous deaths. They shall not be lamented, neither shall they be buried. They shall be as dung upon the face of the ground. They shall be consumed by the sword and by famine, and their carcasses shall be meat for the fowls of heaven and for the beasts of the earth.
And when people read these things, when people on the outside read these things, they think of God as a cruel God, as a God that is harsh, a God that has no compassion. But we do acknowledge him as a compassionate God. We acknowledge him as a loving God because he gives to everybody according to the works of their hands. So if he's displaying a certain level of anger, there's a reason for this anger. God didn't create human beings just to smash them down and destroy them because he feels like it.
Right.
So the fact that he created human beings, he wants to express that love. He wants to express that mercy and compassion. He wants to express what we would call humanity to human beings. But there's a reason why Jehovah God is pronouncing this evil upon the children of Israel. So he's telling the prophet Jeremiah, don't have a wife in this place. Don't have sons and daughters in this place. Because as he said that the mothers that bear them and their children are going to die grievous deaths. Because Jehovah God is, already pronouncing evil is going to come upon the children of Israel. But once again, God doesn't do things or doesn't bring evil because he feels like it. Continue.
But thus saith Yahweh, enter not into the house of mourning, neither go to lament, neither bemoan them. For I have taken away my peace from this people, saith Yahweh, even mercy and compassion.
So once again, as we continue reading, we're going to see the reason for this. But Jehovah God is also saying to the prophet Jeremiah, because there's going to be a lot of deaths. So as he's saying that these are going to be grievous deaths. These are not going to be people that live their lives out and die peacefully. And amongst us today, the nation of Israel, we've experienced a lot of deaths in the past 2 weeks alone. But what we can say about that is that at least these were peaceful deaths for the most part. These were not deaths of people having their lives cut when they were very young. These are not people that died, once again, as we read here, through these grievous deaths, through, famine, through types of destruction. These are deaths that were peaceful. But what Jehovah God is pronouncing for the children of Israel then are evil deaths and grievous deaths, things that we would call accident, things that we would call, traumatic experiences. That's what Jehovah God is pronouncing upon the children of Israel at that time, during the time of Jeremiah. So he's saying, don't go to the house of mourning. We read in the book of Ecclesiastes that when you go to the house of mourning, that's what you can consider. But Jehovah God is saying that he's taking away his peace from the children of Israel. He's taking away that mercy and he's taking away that compassion. So we have to get to the point in our lives we want to get that mercy and compassion back. Because Jehovah God has a lot of mercy and compassion for the children of Israel. But it's the things that we are doing and the things that we have done that we're going to continue to read about that caused him to take away that mercy and that compassion. We read twice so far since the beginning of the book of Jeremiah, where God told the prophet Jeremiah, don't pray for these people. That's how angry Jehovah God was with us at that time. But we are living in a time where we could experience Deuteronomy chapter 30. And the things that we're going to read about in this chapter are going to be in comparison to Deuteronomy 28, the blessings and the curses. But we're living in a time of Deuteronomy 30 where we would think ourselves after experiencing the blessings and the curses. And we want to get on that path so where Jehovah God will restore his mercy and his compassion on us. Continue.
Verse 6. Both the great and the small shall die in this land. They shall not be buried. Neither shall men lament for them, nor cut themselves, nor make themselves bald for them. Neither shall men break bread for them in mourning, to comfort them for the day. Neither shall men give them the cup of consolation, to drink for their father or for their mother.
So these are some of these practices are things that we were already warned not to do when people die. But when Jehovah God is saying that these are practices that were done by that he's saying that we're not going to do. Talking about the cutting of the flesh, because we were commanded. When you read Leviticus chapter 19, Jehovah God already told us, don't make cuttings in our flesh for the dead. But we see at this point in time, this is what the children of Israel were doing for people that died. So Jehovah God is saying he's taking all of these practices that we would do for those that die away, and that the people that are dying these grievous deaths, they're not even going to get an opportunity to be buried. Because once again, Jehovah God has said earlier that he's going to just cause their body to die and fall down on the ground, and the beasts or the earth are going to eat them up, and the fowls of the heavens are going to come down and eat them up. We read also in the book of Jeremiah where Jehovah God said that the kings that did evil before him, that even though time has passed and they were buried, God said that their bones would be dug up and just left on the ground. Because that's how much disrespect God is showing for those that disrespected him. That they won't get a proper burial. And even if we attempted to give a proper burial, God is saying, no, dig those bones up and just leave it on the ground and let the beasts of the ground eat them up and let the fowls of the heaven come down and eat them up. So once again, a comparison to what we've been experiencing the past few weeks. Once again, we are losing people in the prior generation, but that we've seen that they were righteous people and they received the proper burial and they received the proper mourning. But when God is talking about this generation that we're reading in the book here, God is angry with us. Although we weren't born at this time, of course, but God is angry at the children of Israel at this time, and he does not even want us to have proper burials because of the evil that we have done. So God is saying all of those funerals are not going to happen. They're not going to be any burials because there's going to be so much death and it's going to come so traumatic. There's not going to be enough time to mourn. Continue.
And thou shalt not go into the house of feasting to sit with them, to eat and to drink.
Because once again, that's a practice of showing comfort to those that are mourning. So when people that are mourning, they have family members or friends that passed away. These were certain practices that people did where they would go and sit down and eat and drink just to comfort those. But God is saying at this time, because of the evil that is being spread among the children of Israel, that there's not even going to be time for that. Because God is going to show his indignation upon the children of Israel, and therefore all of these things are taking place. Continue.
But thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the God of Yisrael, behold, I will cause to cease out of this place, before your eyes and in your days, the voice of mirth and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride.
Because these are also practices that were done. We read about, basically this is just talking about wedding ceremonies or feasts for people that get married. Just like we just read this now, there were feasts for people that were mourning. Right. There were certain things that were done that when we got together, we just had feasts for various different things. Just to put it in a show, we had feasts. We read about it, in the mornings, the feast for Isaac, being weaned. We read about, once again, here, feasts for people that have weddings. And there were also feasts to comfort those that are mourning in terms of, they had family members that passed away. Right. People would get together. We would call that a repast today. Right. They were just feasts that people get together, have food and drink for a certain occasion. Once again, praising them or bringing the presence of the Most High God in the midst of it. Because, of course, when you're comforting people that are mourning, you want to make sure that they understand that Jehovah God is the true judge. Right. So you're always bringing that into it. When people are getting married, you want to bring the presence of the Most High God into it because you want the Most High God to bless that union. Right. So you have the blessing of the Most High God within it, as well as food and drink that were happening. But God is saying, because of the evil that is happening in these days that we're reading about here, he's taking away all of that. We're not going to want to have time to feast. We're not going to want to, it's not that people weren't getting married, but there's not going to be time to have parties. What God is saying at this time, there's not going to be time for that. You're going to be considering everything that's happening around you, and you're not going to want to have time to sit down and plan out a wedding. All of those feastings that you're doing, all of those occasions that happen that you would have a celebration for, God says he's taking away all of that mercifulness. So once again, this is happening to us because of the evil. Continue.
It shall come to pass, when I shall tell this people all these words, and they shall say unto thee, wherefore hath Jehovah pronounced all this great evil against them? Or what is our iniquity? Or what is our sin that we have committed against Jehovah our God?
Because once again, the prophet Jeremiah is going to great and small, and it says earlier that the great and the small would die. So it's not, people that put themselves on the pedestal, God is going to bring them down. So when all of this is being pronounced by Jeremiah to the people, of course they're going to have questions. When we read about in this book about everything that's going to happen to us, the blessings and the curses, we have questions. So what God is telling Jeremiah is that, yes, you're going to have questions, and people are going to wonder why you're pronouncing order this evil. And this is for all of us to pay attention to at this time, not just those that were living at that time that we read about, but even in this time, we have to hear what Jehovah God is going to say, the reason why we're experiencing these things today. Continue.
Then shalt thou say unto them, because your fathers have forsaken me, saith Jehovah, and have walked after other gods, and have served them, and have worshipped them, and have forsaken me, and have not kept my law.
So that's very important. So we have to realize that our fathers walked away from God. We have to realize that our fathers walked after other gods and served them. We have to realize that our fathers worshiped false gods. And in the process, we have forsaken Jehovah God and not kept his law. His law is the Torah, which are the commandments, statutes, and judgments that were given by Jehovah God to Moses, his servant, for the children of Israel to follow. So when we go astray from that law or that Torah, that's when all of these evils come upon us. But it's not only just because of our fathers sinned against God, because once again, God is a just God. So it's not because our fathers sinned that he's going to punish the next generation, because God also adds this. Continue.
And ye have done worse than your fathers. For behold, you walk every one after the stubbornness of his evil heart, so that ye hearken not unto me. Therefore will I cast you out of this land into a land that ye have not known, neither need ye nor your fathers. And there shall ye serve other gods day and night, for as much I will show you no favor.
Because we read earlier in the book of Jeremiah where God said, just as there are many streets in Jerusalem, so are your gods. Just as you have many cities in the territory of Judah, so are your gods. So what God is saying that the generations before this one that he pronounces evil turned away from him and worshiped foreign gods. But what God is saying is that, yeah, they turned away from him, Jehovah God, and served Baal. But what happened in this generation was just doing everything that they wanted to. They were serving all gods. So like today, where amongst the children of Israel, you have Israelites that are following various doctrines. If you're Israel, you're Israel. If you follow Jehovah God, you follow Jehovah God. But what's happening today, you have Messianic Israelites, two-book Israelites, versus one-book Israelites, versus Torah-based Israelites. Then you have Israelites that's into Buddhism, Christianity, Islam. So God is saying that we're doing worse than the previous generation, because at least with the previous generation, they turned away from Jehovah God and served one or maybe two of the gods. But in this generation, just like we are today, we're following everything. And we cannot allow those foreign influences to impact children of Israel. So today we're into astrology. Even though we don't want to say it's astrology, but we're into astrology.
Right.
We're into Kabbalah. We're into so many different things that Jehovah God is continuing to be angry with us because we're into these various practices, as opposed to following the pure Torah that he has given us. So that's what Jehovah God is saying. We are doing worse than our fathers because we want to include everything in this way of life. Jehovah God gave us a pure law, and we have to make sure that we are pure in following him in doing so. So he said that we follow everyone after the stubbornness of his evil heart and not hearkening to Jehovah God. And that's why he brought us out of the land of Yisrael. And that's why we're scattered throughout the earth today. So for those that say we don't or we can't do the law in foreign lands, if getting us out of the land that we were given as a possession was because we turned away from the law, continuing to turn away from the law is not going to get us back into the land. As it said in Deuteronomy chapter 30, we rethink ourselves and return to Jehovah God and follow his commandments, statutes, and judgments. So we can't say we can't keep the Sabbath day in a foreign land. We can't keep the holy days in foreign lands. We have to return to do that, because these are the things that God was angry with us for not doing, that he said that he brought us out of the land. So we're not going to get back into the land continuing to do the things that God has kicked out in the first place. So it's like parents that have children, and you take away their toys from them because they didn't do good in school. That they continue to do bad in school and then you give them back their toys. That's not how God works.
Right.
When you start doing good again, then you'll have those gifts returned unto you. Just like a parent does to a child, that's how Jehovah God is dealing with the children of Israel. So we can't continue to walk away from God and expect that God is going to chase us. God does not have to chase us. He made us, he could destroy us. And he has destroyed us as a nation. But the only way we're going to get built back up is by returning to him. So that's what we read over and over again. We have to return to him. We have to return to Jehovah God. Don't expect him to chase us. Because once again, he has He's beyond time. You know, there's a statement that said that Jehovah God has all the time in his hand, but he goes beyond time. So he doesn't have to chase us in this generation. He doesn't have to chase us in the next generation. He just has to wait till there's a generation that will return to him. And then he will return to us. Because once again, he's in control of the entire universe.
Right.
So if we want to play around and not follow him, he could just wait till another generation comes up that will actually be obedient to him. Continue.
Verse 14. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith Jehovah, that it shall no more be said, as Jehovah liveth that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, but as Jehovah liveth that brought the children from that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all countries whither he had driven them. And I will bring them back into their land that I gave unto their fathers.
So we read even in the 10 Commandments where it says Jehovah God who brought the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. And that's what we know him as today, as the God that brought the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. You know, when in a few months from now, we'll get into the book of Exodus, you know, as we continue our reading of the Torah cycle, and we read the great things that Jehovah God did in plaguing the land of Egypt with those 10 great plagues, those signs and the wonders that he placed upon them in delivering the children of Yisrael out of the land of Egypt or out of the land of Mizraim. It's Mizraim being the Hebrew terminology for Egypt. But God is saying that there will come a time where he won't just be known as the God that brought the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, but he'll be known as the God that brought the children of Israel out of the lands of the north and out of all of these countries and out of all of these islands. So once again, that shows that we are the children of Israel because we are the ones that are scattered throughout the earth. There are people that claim to be the children of Israel that are not scattered. There are people that that claim to be the children of Israel that are not facing the type of indignation that we are facing, that are not facing the same problems that we are facing. So therefore, they cannot be the children of Israel. Unfortunately, it's the punishments and the curses that we use as an identification. But there will come a time where the blessing that we read in Deuteronomy 28 and in Deuteronomy 30 will also be used to identify who the children of Israel are. Continue.
Behold, I will send for many fishers, saith Jehovah, and they shall fish them. And afterward I will send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain and from every hill, and out of the clefts of the rock.
And that's the process, that's what will happen. So God is saying first, he will be known as the God that brought the children of Israel out of the lands of the north and out of all of the countries where he has driven us. So he's saying he will send for many fishers. He will send for many hunters. He will send for people to go out and gather the children of Israel. Whether it's do fishing, sending out that net and hoping, you know, somebody catches the bait and it reels them in, or a hunter who goes out and actually knows who they're looking for, or knows what they're looking for and actually catches what they're looking for. But Jehovah God has said he's sending these fishers and these hunters out in order to gather the children of Israel. Because this.
For my eyes are upon all their ways. They are not hid from my face, neither is their iniquity concealed from mine eyes. And first, I will recompense their iniquity and their sin double, because they have profaned my land. They have filled mine inheritance with the carcasses of their detestable things and their abominations.
So these are detestable things and these abominations or the false gods that we were worshiping then. So once again, we can't attach Jehovah God to anyone else,
right?
Because that's a detestable thing in his sight. So he sent fishers and hunters as during this time to gather us. But also that line can be read of what was happening back then. Because even when we tried to hide from that danger, Jehovah God said that he was also sending fishers and hunters to gather those people out of the rocks that they were hiding in. So basically nobody can escape. We can't escape the curses and we cannot escape the blessings also. Because Most High God will make sure as he has scattered us, so he will gather us. So wherever we are, like in Deuteronomy 30, wherever we are, that word will reach us and gather us in. But even during this time before we were scattered, God sent Babylon to come into our land and make sure that they hunted and fished us out so that they would take us into captivity. But as Jehovah God said, after, you know, he made that statement, say he be known as the God that gathered us from the north and the countries, he will also fish and hunt for us that way also. Continue.
O Jehovah, my strength and my stronghold, and my refuge in the day of affliction. Unto thee shall the nations come from the ends of the earth and shall say, our fathers have inherited naught but lies, vanity and things wherein there is no profit. Shall a man make unto himself gods, and they are no gods?
Because once again, we're supposed to be teaching the world that Jehovah alone is God.
Right.
So there will come a time when the nations will say amongst themselves that we inherited naught but lies. They will realize that the religions that they are into are falsehoods. And they're going to realize that their fathers have taught them lies. But Jehovah God is going to step in and make sure that all of the earth knows that he is God alone. So it's just our responsibility to make sure that that happens even during this time. So as we read these words, we want to be part of this process. We don't want to be on the other side of what we're reading here on the evil. We want to be part of that process when Jehovah God is bringing good among the children of Israel and ultimately spreading it throughout the earth. Because once again, as it says here, the nations will come and say that from the ends of the earth, that they will say that our fathers have inherited naught but lies, and the vanities and the things that did not profit them were the false gods that they were worshiping. Continue.
Therefore, behold, I will cause them to know. This once will I cause them to know. My hand and my might, and they shall know that my name is Jehovah.
So once again, that statement, it said, and they shall know that my name is Jehovah, is when he brings all of these things to pass. So it's like when we read in the book of Exodus, and he told Moses that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob didn't know his name Jehovah. It's not, you can read it in comparison with the statement here. It's not that the name was not physically heard or known by them, but the promises that Jehovah God was not brought about in their lives. So just like here in Jeremiah chapter 16, once we see all of these things happen, then we will really know the name of Jehovah. So it's just a matter of terminologies in when it says that now you'll know the name of Jehovah. It's not, once again, just hearing the name or speaking the name, but once all of those promises come into effect, then you'll start to truly realize the name of Jehovah, because you know that he is beyond time. He knows what's going to happen in the future, in the present, and he knew what happened before, a thing that we have already forgotten. Jehovah God never forgets. And he also is in control of what's going to happen in the future. So he's able to speak these things. But it's mankind that makes up things that are profitable for not. It says here, we make gods with the works of our hands, but they can't do anything for us. Because once again, we are the ones that construct our gods. But we have to realize that as human beings, we are constructed by God. So once again, we have to serve the God that had made us and not serve gods that we have made. It's as we said, in a few weeks ago that, people make gods and things happen to their gods and they got to rebuild them. They make a god, and after a period of time, the god gets dusty. You got to dust your god off. You have a god on your chain, and you ride on your bike, and then the chain might snap, and then your god goes flying. You got to go chase after your god. And if your god falls out on the ground and the arm falls off, you got to figure out how to get that arm back on your god. So that's what it says. That's what God is saying. How can we make gods that are no gods? We have more power than they do, because we made them. And if we don't, they can't see us.
Right.
And even when we think they can see us, we could turn them around. So if you could spin your God around, then you have more power over your God. That's what we try to do. When you want to do evil, then you might put your crucifix back tuck it in your shirt. But we serve the true and the living God who sees all things. You can't turn Jehovah God around. He'll turn you around if you keep acting up, but you can't turn him around. He's going to always see. You could turn all the lights out in your house, and he's still going to see. He doesn't need night vision goggles. So there's nothing you can do to hide from the true and the living God. Amen. Continue.
Chapter 17. The sin of Judah is written with the pen of iron.
And this is a verse that the Jews don't like to hear, but it's in the book. So Chief Aquana, your son, Aja Quain, as great as Aja Quain taught this morning, as it says here, what it says here?
The sin of Judah is written with the pen of iron.
What it says?
And with the point of a diamond.
Say it again.
The sin of Judah is written with the pen of iron and with the point of a diamond.
One more time.
The sin of Judah. The sin of Judah is written with the pen of iron with the point of a diamond. It is graven. It is graven upon the tablet of their heart and upon the horns of your altars.
So when you have a pen that has a diamond tip, and you write with it, you can't erase that.
No, sir. Great.
Ink you can erase. When you need to engrave something, it's there. All you can do is try to scrape it out. That's the only thing you can do. But what God is saying is that the sin of Judah, but when he's talking about Judah, he's talking about the kingdom of Judah. So it involves other tribes also. So in just, we may talk about just the tribe of Judah, but it's talking about the kingdom of Judah at the time, which involves other tribes, which the Judahites would like to hear. They don't want to go down alone. So all of us dwelling in the territory of Judah, our sin was written with that diamond pen and graven upon the tablets of our hearts, because on the horns of our altars, because these altars that were erected were not erected to give sacrifices to the true and the living God. As it said earlier in the book of Jeremiah, we have altars all over for various gods. Continue.
Like the symbols of their sons are their altars, and their asherim are by the leafy trees, upon the high hills.
Because it's Asherim, and it said like the symbols of their sons are their altars. As much as they have sons, so they have altars. And the Asherim were worshipped by the various trees. So as many trees that there were in the kingdom of Judah, that's how many Asherim were being worshipped. Or the Asherah was a foreign goddess, a Canaanite goddess. And once again, when people start doing excavation in Israel, you will see how evil we were, because you will see excavations of inscriptions saying Jehovah and his wife Asherah. Because once again, that's what we were doing. We're giving Jehovah a wife. But Jehovah stands alone. He doesn't need anybody else. But that's why he became angry with us, because we were attaching him to someone else. Continue.
O thou that sittest upon the mountain in the field, I will give thy substance and thy treasures for a spoil, and thy high places because of sin throughout all thy borders. And thou even of thyself shalt discontinue from thy heritage that I gave. And I'll cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not, for ye have kindled a fire in my nostril, which shall burn forever.
And that's why we're in the predicament that we are in today. And once again, when you look at the Jewish person, they're not facing that type of indignation. They're not scattered throughout the earth and receiving that evil.
Talk about
They're not getting shot down in the street like we are getting shot down. They're not receiving that oppression that we are receiving. So it's us that's being scattered throughout the earth. And you know, when you look at the Jewish person, they're not bowing down to false gods.
right?
But we, as the children of Israel, we wanted to worship false gods, and now we are punished to worship false gods.
Right.
So once again, we have to see where everything lines up. And it's not to bash up. We also have to realize who we are,
That's
but also realize that what we are capable of doing, which is doing good. So once again, we have to read within this book, follow the commandments, statutes, and judgments of the true and the living God, so that he can return to us. So once again, he's not going to chase us. He's not going to force us to do good. We have to force ourselves to do good. We have to, that internal struggle that we have with ourselves, that we have to make sure that we are doing good. Even if you have an evil thought that comes into your mind,
Right.
make sure you push it out.
away.
God is not going to make us be righteous. We have to choose to be righteous. We have to choose the blessing. We have to choose life. We have to choose to do good. And if we don't do so, we're going to receive evil. We're going to receive the curses. We're going to receive death. But there will come a generation of Yisrael that will rise up and do better than us. Continue.
Thus saith Jehovah, cursed is the man that trusteth in man, and maketh flesh his arm, and whose heart departed from Jehovah. For he shall be like the tamarisk in the desert, and shall not see when good cometh, but shall inhabit the parched places in the wilderness, a salt land and not inhabited.
So this is what Jehovah God is saying. Cursed is the man that trusts in man. So, but you had to take the entire statement. It's not just saying don't trust people. You can't trust people and have your heart depart from Jehovah God. Because you can have people that can direct you in a righteous path. And then as you get to the next part, those are the people that you would trust in. But you don't trust in people that will cause you to turn away from God.
Right.
And it says here, cursed is the man that trusts in man and makes flesh his arm, and whose heart departs from Jehovah. So it's not saying cursed is the man that people trust in. It's cursed is the one that trusts in someone else. Because that person that people are trusting in could be given from Jehovah God as a sign to see whether you're going to follow him, follow Jehovah God, or follow that man. So that person could be living good. But it says, cursed is the man that follows another man to turn away from Jehovah God. So once again, just because you see people living good and they're departing from Jehovah, if you trust in that person, that curse comes upon you. So once again, that person could be just given as a sign to see where your mindset is at. To find out, are you going to follow Jehovah God, or are you one that's going to just trust in mankind? So once again, when you start following mankind and turn away from God and you start facing trouble, you be like, well, why that's not happening to them? The word is cursed to be the man that trusted another man. That person can continue to live good in your eyes. But don't think that if that person does evil, that they're not going to receive evil. That's not for you to see. That's for your test. So you're going to continue to see them doing good, and you're going to think that, oh, I'm going to continue following them. But if you're turning away from Jehovah God, you're the one that God has already pronounced that cursing upon, not the individual that is being trusted in. Because it said that the person that trusted another man and turns away from God, it said the tamarisk, that's just like a tree in the desert. It's not going to get any water. So now the next part of it is this.
Blessed is the man that trusts in Jehovah, and whose trust Jehovah is. For he shall be as a tree planted by the waters, and that spreadeth out its roots by the river, and shall not see when he cometh, but its foliage shall be luxuriant, and shall not be anxious in the year of drought, neither shall cease from yielding.
And it's like when we read in the Psalms, you have a tree that's planted by water, it doesn't need rain, because its roots going to continue to grow in the ground to touch that river water. So Jehovah God is saying that you're going to be blessed if you trust in him. And once again, it says, blessed is the man that trusts in Jehovah. And it doesn't include any other else in that statement. Right. When it says, cursed is the man that trusts in man, it's talking about human beings trusting in each other and departed from Jehovah. But when it comes to the blessing, it says the blessed is the man that just trusts in Jehovah. Meaning your focus is totally on him. You're not focusing on somebody else and focusing on Jehovah God at the same time. So that blessing comes by just focusing your attention on Jehovah God and not trying to trust in somebody else and follow somebody else. Once again, people can direct you to Jehovah God, but you don't put your trust in the people that are directing you to Jehovah God. Your trust is completely to Jehovah God. And once again, you be like that tree that does not need any rain. Because once again, if you're directing your thoughts to Jehovah God, he will direct his thoughts to you, and you won't need anybody else to survive because he's the one that will sustain you. Continue.
The heart is deceitful above all things, and it is exceeding weak.
Because as it says, your mind played tricks on you. Mm-hmm. You know, this year, Halloween falling out on a weekday, your mind start playing tricks on you. So that's what Jehovah God is saying. But he knows what's in us. He made us. So continue, as it says.
I, Jehovah, search the heart. I try the reins, even to give every man according to his ways, according to the fruit of his doing.
So he says he gives to everyone according to the fruits of their doings. Right. If you plant an apple tree, if you plant an apple seed, an apple tree will grow up. If you plant an orange seed, an orange tree will grow up. Whatever they do to plants, bananas, you plant, and I don't want to say seed because it's not the seed. But if you plant whatever that is, it's going to grow up. If you plant evil, you're only going to get evil. Don't plant evil and expect to get good.
Right.
Just like if you plant a good seed, you're going to get good come up. Your tree is going to be good.
Right.
Because people think that, the ends justify the means. The ends do not justify the means for Jehovah God. He gives to everyone according to the works or according to the fruit of your doings. And these words are given specifically so we can understand it. Because once again, just as a seed that you plant brings up the type of tree of the seed it is, so all your doings. So if you want to have good, make sure that the seed that you're planting is good. And then Jehovah God will bless you. Because once again, it said earlier, put your trust completely in him, and then you will be blessed. So plant that righteous seed if you want righteousness to come up. If you want to have evil in your life, continue to plant evil. Continue.
As the partridge that broodeth over young, which ye have not brought forth, so is he that getteth riches, and not by right. In the midst of his days he shall leave them, and at the end, and at his end he shall be a fool.
And we are told this because we like to look at other people. So it's saying that as the partridge that broods over young, which she have not brought forth, meaning that it's a bird that is looking after young that does not belong to her. So it says a rich person that gathers, riches by evil. We may look at them and say, oh, this person is doing good right now, but we don't know what their end is going to be. So people that try to get over on other people, your Most High God is going to make sure that he takes care of them. But we may not see it. Because once again, that's our test, to see if we're going to follow Jehovah God or follow the rich man that we think is being blessed. And the riches are not always blessings.
Right.
We want peace.
Teacher.
We want protection from God. Blessings could just come as, a part of the package, as was King Solomon. King Solomon was wise in asking for wisdom. He didn't ask for the riches, because sometimes those riches could bring you problems. But you see all of these people in entertainment that are rich, people in sports that are rich, and we think we want to be like them, but you don't know what they're going through in their lives. All of these people are going, as Chief Uza spoke about, might as well mention her again. She have money, and she still got shot in the foot. So your riches are not going to protect you. And that one shooting in the foot could have ended her life. That bullet could have traveled, could have did all types of things. But riches don't necessarily equate to blessings. When we read the blessing that God spoke to Abraham, he didn't say your children are going to be rich.
Right.
The riches just came along naturally because as he's going around meeting with people, people want to give him stuff. People want to do business with Abraham because he's a good person. So the riches come naturally. But when you read Deuteronomy chapter 28 and we read the blessings, it's not all about money. It's not about riches. It's about peace, having healthy children. Peace is just a great blessing. Just being able to wake up and not have problems. That's what you want, because you could wake up and have $10 million in the bank. If you don't have peace, it's not going to do anything for you.
Right.
Because you got that pain in your side that the money's not going to be able to take care of. And Chief Joshua mentioned it like on the side, people have money and they spend all their money on medication. That's how they living now. So all your money that you made in your life, you're paying for medication. because you're sick. You want peace of mind and peace in your body.
Teacher.
That's where the blessing comes in. Continue.
Thou throne of glory on high from the beginning, thou place of our sanctuary, thou hope of Yisrael, Behold, all that forsake thee shall be ashamed. They that depart from thee shall be written in the earth, because they have forsaken Jehovah, the fountain of living water.
And we read that earlier, that we've forsaken the fountain of living waters, and we have built up cisterns that hold no water. Broken cisterns that hold no water. And that's the double-fold evil that's coming upon us. So we have a cistern, it's broken, we put water into it, and the water comes right out of it. But as it said here, we trust in Jehovah God, and we be like that tree that's planted by that water, that has that continual source of water. He's the source, or he's the fountain that brings forth these waters that will bring us that peace and give us that peace of mind and peace in our bodies. Continue.
Heal me, O Jehovah, and I shall be healed. Save me, and I shall be saved. For thou art my praise.
So when we're sick, the only one that can heal us is Jehovah God.
Amen.
When we're in trouble, the only one that can save us is Jehovah God.
Amen.
So our praise should be to him and to him alone, because he's the only one that can save us. He's the only one that can heal us. So that's why in the midst of all of this prayer that Jeremiah is saying is to Jehovah God, because he realizes that the salvation and the healing comes from Jehovah God alone. So it's not going to be in vaccines. It's not going to be in medicine. It's going to be in Jehovah God. He's going to protect us, and he's going to make sure that we stay healed. Continue.
Behold, they say unto me, where is the word of Jehovah? Let it come now. As for me, I have not hastened from being a shepherd after thee, neither have I desired the woeful day, thou knowest. That which came out of my lips was manifest before thee. Be not a ruin unto me. Thou art my refuge in the day of evil. Let them be ashamed that persecute me, but let not me be ashamed. Let them be dismayed, but let not me be dismayed. Bring upon them the day of evil and destroy them with double destruction.
And that's the prayer of Jeremiah, because he's saying that since he was commissioned to do the job, he did his job. So people were coming to him for the word of Jehovah, and he spoke it whether they liked it or not. And when they didn't like it, they persecuted him. They tried to damage him. So Jeremiah is saying that all he did was do the job that Jehovah God placed him to do. All he did was try to make sure that he spoke right all the time. He made sure that he spoke the good words that Jehovah God would say. Good word meaning the truthful words, because Jehovah God also pronounced evil. So once he made sure that he always pronounced exactly what Jehovah God told him to speak to people, and people were upset with him because of speaking those words. So but Jeremiah is saying that just protect. Right. That's what he's saying. No, he's going to continue to do that job, continue to speak those words, but he's saying just protect me because I'm going forth and doing the job that Jehovah God put upon him. Continue.
Thus saith Jehovah unto me, go and stand in the gate of the children of the people, whereby the kings of Judah come in, and by which they go out, and in all the gates of Jerusalem, and say unto them.
So once again, now Jeremiah is being given another task. He's going to go forth this gate of Jerusalem where everybody comes in and out. He's going to go forth and stand in those gates and give forth this word. Continue.
Hear ye the word of Jehovah, ye kings of Judah, and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem that enter in by.
So once again, this word is for everybody. So he's not speaking it just to the kings, but he's making sure if the kings don't want to hear this word, that everybody got an opportunity to hear this word. So it's not just, once again, the commandments, statutes, and judgments are not just for people of a higher status, but it's for everybody to follow. Continue.
Thus saith Jehovah, take heed for the sake of your souls, and bear no burden on the Shabbat day, nor bring it in by the gates of Jerusalem. Neither carry forth the burden out of your houses on the Shabbat day, neither do ye any work, but hallow ye the Shabbat day, as I commanded your father.
So this Sabbath day, the Shabbat day is pronounced in Hebrew, which is the seventh day of every week. It's so important that even throughout this entire book of Jeremiah, along with focusing on us on following false gods, Jehovah God is bringing in the Sabbath day within this as well. And, you know, we don't have time for it, but when you read this with Nehemiah, the last chapter of Nehemiah, you will read exactly what the burdens are. It's not about just carrying something heavy. It's about carrying your wares, carrying things that you're going to sell, carrying things to do business with. As we read in the book of Isaiah, that we have to make sure, if you turn away your foot because of the Shabbat day, for pursuing your business or your pleasure on this holy day,
right,
and call the Shabbat day a delight. So once again, our focus on the Shabbat day, or your focus on the Sabbath day, is the Sabbath day alone. So we don't go in and out of the gates of the cities. We don't go in and out of our homes with ideas of what's going to happen after the Sabbath day. So once again, Jehovah God is warning the children of Israel at this time. He's warning the kings. He's warning the people, saying, do not leave through these gates. Do not leave your house with your burdens. Once again, it's not just something that's heavy. You have to take it in context. And once again, reading along with the book of Nehemiah, it's business, things that you're going to do trade with. that you don't have that on your mind, because you're not supposed to leave your homes with anything else on your mind but the Sabbath day. Continue.
But they hearkened not, neither inclined their ear, but made their neck stiff, that they might not hear nor receive instruction.
And that's what they did then, but we cannot do that now. Once we hear the word of God, we have to make sure that we soften our necks and pray to Jehovah God that even if we have a stiff neck, that he would teach us how to soften our necks. And once again, he's not going to force us to do good or evil. These are choices that we make. So once again, you plant evil, you will receive evil. You plant good, you do good. So he's warning us even in this book. You know, there's 50 plus chapters in Jeremiah, but God focuses on us worshiping false gods and us keeping the Sabbath day holy. Continue.
It shall come to pass, if ye diligently hearken unto me, saith Jehovah, to bring in no burden through the gates of this city on the Shabbat day, but to hallow the Shabbat day, to do no work therein.
So there's going to be a blessing that comes for us doing this, keeping the Sabbath day holy. Continue.
Then shall there enter in by the gates of this city kings and princes, sitting upon the throne of David, riding in chariots and in horses. They and their princes, the men of Judah, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And this city shall be inhabited forever.
So once we kept the Sabbath day holy, or if we kept the Sabbath day holy, all of the evil that we read about in the book of Jeremiah would not have happened unto us. But in contrast, this is what God is saying. If you decide to not keep the Sabbath day holy, if you decide to work on the Sabbath day, this is what's going to happen.
And they shall come from the cities of Judah, and from the places round about Jerusalem, and from the land of Binyamin, and from the lowland, and from the mountains, and from the south, bringing burnt offerings and sacrifices, and meal offerings and frankincense, and bringing sacrifices of thanksgiving unto the house of Jehovah.
But this is just continue. If we keep the Sabbath day holy, meaning that we'll be a self-governing nation, Jehovah God will bring us peace, and we'll continue to serve Jehovah God alone. But if we decide to not hearken to Jehovah God.
But if you are not hearken unto me to hallow the Shabbat day, and not to be a burden to enter into at the gates of Jerusalem on the Shabbat day, then will I kindle a fire in the gates thereof, and it shall devour the palaces of Jerusalem, and it shall not be quenched. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. So when Babylon came in to destroy the children of Yisrael that were in Jerusalem and all the cities around Jerusalem and come to the kingdom of Judah, it's because we decided to turn away from Jehovah God and worship false gods, and also because we decided not to keep the Sabbath day holy, and we continue to work on the Sabbath day. But we want to receive that blessing that Jehovah God promised that he would give unto us by focusing our attention on him alone and by keeping the Sabbath day holy. So we thank the Most High God for our lives. We thank him for strength, thank him for good health, and praying that he would give us peace, and to teaching us to serve him, focus on him alone, keep the Sabbath day holy, and do everything that is good and right in the sight of the Most High God. And with that, I say, Shalom. Yeah.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that anytime we upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thank you.